Hey there. Welcome to GSPN's Milwaukee Bucks 2024-2025 season preview. We are recording this on Tuesday morning. The Bucks season is 1 day away. It starts tomorrow when Milwaukee is in Philadelphia on ESPN to kick things off. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that game later, but we've got some overarching season themes to discuss. I am Ti Windisch, joined as always by my Eurostep compatriot Rohan Katti and Jordan Treske, a.k.a. the Hound of the Baskervilles. That's not a real thing, but fellas, how's it going?
Doing well. I mean, the NBA season is upon us. You can't be too upset about that. It's been a good transition. We just had the WNBA finals, which were incredible. And then there was only like 2 days, and now we've got the NBA back. It's just the timing was perfect.
I'm doing good. I have a question for Rohan because he
Oh boy.
boldly proclaimed that he's leaving out milk and cookies for Maurice Podoloff. Were said milk and cookies eaten or taken from wherever you were studying it for?
There were fewer there than I left out. So
Wow.
Maurice did come to visit.
Rohan has mice. Oh. I won't talk about if Maurice Podoloff is real on this podcast in case we have any younger listeners. He definitely is. He definitely is real. What else is real is Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports platform. Download the app today. Use code Eurostep to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Get in on the action with us all NBA season. We'll talk more about Prize Picks later, but we're going to be breaking down our Prize Picks plays all season long. Hopefully I'm going to enunciate that well all season long too. But let's get into the meat of the podcast here. We're going to share the things that we're most excited about for this Bucks season. We're going to share our biggest concerns for this Bucks season. I think we're all going to be trying to trample over each other to be the first one to say health, so the other guys have to come up with other things, but we'll get there. But first, I want to talk about, I think, what feels to me like the theme of preseason coverage as it relates to the Bucks, which is really, I think, and I said to you guys, more than ever since we've been doing this, is a Milwaukee versus everybody kind of mentality here. And you could argue, ahead of the Giannis free agencies, maybe that was more, but I think just in terms of like, not any agendas, just like I think people are really low on the Bucks. I mean, I have probably seen in various from like outlets that cover other specific teams, from the general outlets, ESPN, Bleacher Report, Athletic, whatever. I think I've seen the Bucks mocked like in the play-in this year more than I have in a top 2 seed this year. I mean, it is pretty stark how low everyone is on the Bucks. I am not. We'll talk about if you guys are, but I just want to get your take first on, like, do you agree? Are you noticing this as well? Is it really just like, are we late to this? Are the Bucks bad now? Or is everyone just like sick of talking about the Milwaukee Bucks with Damian Lillard after just 1 year?
I have certainly seen this take. I one thing that I've looked forward to this year than quite probably it's been a while since probably pre-championship, is seeing where people evaluate the Bucks. Excuse me. And I have seen this take. I understand the sentiments. I do think a lot of it is based in NBA transaction brain of, if you're not doing something new to shaking up your team, you're getting left behind kind of thing. I just think, and I would assume a lot of people would agree, especially maybe the other 2 people on this podcast with me, that the Bucks did their big thing a little over a year ago. And what I like from that perspective of trying to get Damian Lillard settled in more, especially with a fully healthy offseason where he can actually, develop and get ready for the following season and not be mired in trade sagas and all this stuff. Giannis Antetokounmpo getting healthy, coming off a good, strong Olympics play, even if Greece didn't meet their ultimate ambition. Obviously, Chris is an outlier in terms of just he exists in his own bubble, but we know that this is not anything new. We know what his it's like a side quest over here of trying to get healthy and trying to fully integrate into the team. I understand why people would overlook the Bucks. I do think, I mean, I can get into other bigger concerns later, but it does feel like because it didn't work out last year, because it was a tire fire with Adrian Griffin, so much so that he got fired 40 odd games into his coaching career and basically vanished off the earth, it feels like. And the Damian Lillard trade didn't work out as everybody thought it would in year one. That Milwaukee's just kind of not, they just exist on this second tier of very competitive, but ultimately is their ceiling a championship contender? I believe even I'm looking at my phone right now. I have a push notification from the Journal Sentinel of article about why the Bucks shouldn't even be considered a championship contender, or similar of the argument of do they. I'm explaining this very poorly.
Hold on.
But there's something of, are they still good enough to be even considered a championship contender? So I'm also doing the mortal podcast sin of reacting to an article that I haven't read.
I gotta get logged in here and read this thing.
The title is analysis. Should the Milwaukee Bucks actually have championship expectations?
And that answer, I believe I saw something on Twitter of someone who's more qualified to talk about like how press headlines are made now. If you have a question as like your posit of like your article, the answer is almost yes. So I'm answering that question with a yes. Anyway, my long-winded answer is my way of saying this team, nothing's really changed for what they want to ultimately vie for, and that's a championship. Is it as sexy as what other teams have done, most recently like the Knicks with all the trades that they've made? Probably not, but I just think this is a chemistry issue and obviously a health issue of the Bucks being able to, get back to the promised land more than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it because the talent is obviously there, right? Like this is a team that's very talented. Ti, you and I and Jordan, you and Adam talked all throughout the offseason about how this team is just so much better than it was last year. And last year was a very talented team as well. They just didn't have the right pieces around them, but it seems like they do this year. It's just a matter of can they fit together? Can they play together? How are they going to play together? What's their style going to be? What's their identity going to be on both sides of the ball? That's the real question. And I think there is a little bit of like that transaction brain that you mentioned, Jordan, when talking about these teams and it's like where these things going to be, because there are these seemingly sexy moves made, like Philadelphia, go and get a guy like Paul George. The Knicks, go get Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges. Like those teams, like it seems better, right? It's like, oh my God, this is the fresh new thing. I love it. I think one thing that people don't take into account is that it's very, very tough to do things in year one. Like it just doesn't work out very well. Like these new teams, it hasn't, not just for the Bucks, but just think about a lot of teams in general, like these new super teams, the Nets, the Clippers, the Lakers. It wasn't in year one. A lot of these teams, it takes a little bit of time for them to mesh and to get to know each other and do well. I think the Bucks are oddly like an exception to that rule when they won in 2021 when getting Drew Holiday on his first year. It was but the thing is they already had so much pre-established chemistry with Giannis, Chris, Brooke. It's just about like how do you reinvent yourself, because they didn't have to reinvent themselves when they got Drew Holiday. They had previous guy in that role, Eric Bledsoe, was a similar archetype of player. Damian Lillard is not. You have to reinvent the way you play. And I think that's one of the reasons why it didn't work in year one, and it takes some time and you're more hopeful for year two. But I think that's also a good reason to say, yeah, they should be better than these teams like the Knicks, like the Sixers, because it's their year one. Like they need that time to completely reinvent themselves and find a way to push forward. I mean, if I'm just going to put on my hater hat for a second, I say for a second, like
hat. Let's go with our guy Bobby Portis' favorite term, your naysayer hat.
My naysayer hat that I actually never take off. It's just permanently on. But What reason is there to believe in the Philadelphia 76ers? Just genuinely curious.
I mean, Caleb Martin is probably like the fourth best player in the league. The way they talk about adding him, that's my favorite part about Philly's summer. So it's like they had they added Paul George and Cody Martin. And it's like that's your second, or Caleb Martin. That's your second guy. You're saying wow. Okay, I mean, it's a good summer. They say Andre Drummond, like he's going to make an all defensive team. Like he didn't try to posterize Torrey Craig, his teammate last season.
This guy went on a podcast recently and said he's intentionally missed shots to get rebounds.
Like the least shocking admission of all time.
Yeah,
I know. The thing is, like, Andre Drummond is actually he's an actual good value addition.
He is.
Like, I'm not.
He is, but it's like he's not changing your life. It's such like so interesting though the way like he and the full clip of that. This is way off topic, but he's just like, I saw whoever Dwight leading the NBA with 9 rebounds per game, and I was like, I can get 14 fucking rebounds. And it's like, why is that where your mind goes? Like you just pick a completely arbitrary stat. You're like, I could do this better. I'm just gonna do this my whole career. You know what? I'm gonna be the rebounds guy. Good for you. Good for him, I guess. Very strange individual.
I get it's kind of worked.
Yeah, I mean that's his thing now. I think a lot of this is what you guys are talking about. I think some of this is also. I think the decline is being calculated to happen probably about 2 years before it actually will. Like I think a lot of this is in addition to people being bored of them and their tumultuous last season and the Doc thing, which I want to talk about as well. I think there's a lot of like, oh, they're just too old. Like they're just physically going to fall apart. They don't have it anymore. And I think I look at the way Brook Lopez played this preseason, and I'm just not worried about it. And I really do think that is kind of the canary in the coal mine for the Bucks aging out of relevance with this core. I mean, I certainly think Dame has looked really good physically this preseason. I think obviously he was very serious about his training and everything in a way he couldn't do last year. Like, I don't think this is going to be the season where you go, oh, they're just too old now. Like, I think they're still effective enough to counter it. Maybe next season, I mean, we'll see. Brook Lopez isn't under contract for next season and can't have his contract extended technically, which sucks. But like, if he's still a starter next year, maybe then we see more cracks. I mean, it's going to be his age 37, 38 year. Like that's a lot more, tenuous even than now. But I think like Dame, Brook, I think Chris is obviously the big variable. I don't know, man. I kind of think Chris is going to pull up and be able to do Chris stuff for a long time still, just when he's able to be on the court. That seems like the limiting factor.
He still won playoff games. I know they didn't win the series, but played on half of leg.
Yeah. He was literally the best mid-range shooter in the NBA last season, despite coming and going with all the different ramp ups, ramp downs, ankle sprain. Like, I just think, and Doc has said that, like, he can just pull up and play. Like, Chris knows his game. His game is not reliant on athleticism or his handle. He's just going to make a bunch of tough shots. And he can still do that, I think, at a very high level. And he's been on the court. He just has not done 5-on-5 yet, which is why he's not playing on opening night. But also Doc. Where are you guys at with Doc? I mean, I know I've kind of started to embrace Doc for what he is. There's still, I think, a sentiment from a lot of people of like, he's going to let them down. He's going to throw these guys under the bus, this and that. I don't think Doc is going to be the reason this team comes up short. And I don't know if that's just too optimistic of me, but I kind of think there was a lot going on. I mean, like there is every year for every team, but on those Doc teams, like I don't think it was just Doc the reason that, Chris Paul or James Harden or Joel Embiid, blew some of these playoff leads. I don't know if Doc was like the answer to fix them. Again, I don't think he is like a Spoelstra kind of coach where he's going to give you an edge in every series. But I also think based on at least the first playoff series we got with him, just seems very competent, very sound. I mean, I think he's going to put him in a position. It's going to be up to the players, which is all you can really ask for. Again, unless you have Spo, basically just Spo at this point as your head coach.
I would say it's kind of irrelevant to me considering that the Bucks lost. I mean, they didn't get out of the first round the last 2 years. Like, this is all stemming from just how calamitous the Heat series was and the fallout. I mean, we're still dealing with it. That's the ultimate thing. Like, that, independent of Doc's lack of postseason success and everything like that, this Bucks team has scars. I think part of that is feeding into whatever perception that the Bucks are cultivating among the more national bird's eye view that everybody has in terms of like NBA media. But yeah, I don't view that as a Doc thing. Like, I think the thing about Doc and whatever, I know he was talking about it last week in Eric Name's piece for The Athletic that was really good. Obviously,
he was fired up, man.
He was very fired up. I think he is a floor raiser, and it's similar to Bud in that sense. He's not like Bud. I think even Adam and I were talking about this way back when, of like after the whole coaching change last year. But it's like there's something similar to how both teams or both coaches approach their teams.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that is what they've always wanted to go back to. Like, are we going to stomach a nasty playoff loss if it so happens? Yeah, it sucks that watching the Bucks lose when they don't go to the championship or make it to the finals or anything like that. But considering what they're coming out of the last 2 years, it's just not been fun in itself. And, you know, Doc, for all of his warts, and when you're around long enough, you're going to have more warts than you are going to have titles. The fact that he has one is already kind of a miracle, considering that, you know, he has as many as Rick Carlisle. He has as many as Joel Mazzulla now.
Bud.
But I just think, I don't know, the Doc thing is just really kind of irrelevant to me, considering just that the Bucks have their own scars independent of what Doc brings to the table.
Yeah, if you blew a 3-1 lead, it'd be as many playoff wins as they got in the last 2 runs combined. So still kind of progress, frankly.
Oh, that's depressing.
Yeah.
Can't blow a 3-1 lead without winning 3 games.
Damn right.
Yeah, they didn't give him a chance last season.
Yeah, they really didn't, did they?
What do you think, Rohan?
Yeah, Doc Rivers is kind of Doc Ock. Okay, sure. He's a character for sure. I think I've started to like him as a character a lot more.
Yeah,
because we truly haven't really seen him be a Bucks head coach yet. I don't think. Like we got the second half of last year, which was terrible. It was awful. But it's that I would never wish this upon anybody type situation where you're coming in mid-season. You have no sense of who these players are. He's asking assistants, hey, what's AJ Green good at? Let's put him in there. It's that type of stuff. But now you have a full offseason. You have a full training camp at UC Irvine as a tax write-off. You have whatever you need. Like all that preparation is there. Now it's time to see what it is. I don't think Doc can be fully evaluated until we see what happens like this season. Truly, because I think this is like the true first season of Doc the first time Doc is acting as the Bucks head coach.
Doc agrees. Doc would probably say, let's call it next year. There's still a lot of adjusting going on. Let's extend this contract once and let's bake in a couple more trips. I got to go, see what Rondo's up to, make sure everything's okay
Larry
down there,
David's
get him
calling
back
from the golf course. Hey, you want to play at 18 today? Yeah.
I got to go reveal Chris Middleton's surgeries on another Summer League broadcast. And I know I've said this on the pod. I won't belabor the point. I think you just have to embrace the bit though with Doc. We're here now. Like, there's nothing we can do. I think he's done a good job coaching the Bucks so far. I agree with you. This is his first real test. I mean, obviously you're never going to win the first round with no Dame and no Giannis on this top heavy team, especially that roster, which was really not balanced at all, as we talked about plenty after the late Drew for Dame swap. But I thought he did well in the playoffs overall. I mean, he made Gallo functional, which is frankly insane. My close personal friend. But I'm really excited to see.
I forgot he was on the team last year, to be honest.
That dude was playing playoff
minutes.
Yeah.
They defended well with him on the court in game 5, I want to say.
It was. That was a big that was the Chris game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, continue.
No, that's it. But yeah, really, I think this is going to be a good thing. This whole like Milwaukee versus everybody. I think the Bucks are always better when no one kind of believes in them. Like, I think it's gonna. I mean, probably doesn't matter. And then I'm sure there's people who have been saying this whole time, it doesn't matter, no one cares. I mean, that's fine. I would like to consume some coverage about the NBA that doesn't include people just being like, oh, the Bucks, they suck, they're washed, they're broken. Like, they were the second seed until the last day of the season last year with everything that went wrong. Like, I just think the decline is being fast forwarded because people don't care about the Bucks because they play in Milwaukee and everything else. And I mean, we're used to this. It's not ruining my day or anything, but I do think this is where we're at. It's very much to me like okay, everybody now really wants the Bucks to fail and just be done and like fast forward through the whole era of them mattering. And I don't think we're there yet. So I'm excited to see how it goes down. I'm excited to share our excitement, our things we're most excited about this coming Bucks season. But I'm also really excited about Prize Picks, the presenting sponsor of this podcast. Now that basketball is back, this is truly a glorious time on the sports calendar, folks. We got the World Series starting up. We got football in full swing, of course. Basketball is back. As Rohan said, I mean, basketball was off for like 2 days, but men's basketball, I think there's going to be a lot more plays on the app. Of course, now, not just one game every couple of days. There's going to be multiple games every single night. There was some preseason, season-long Prize Picks plays. Did you see this at all, Rohan?
No.
I got a notification. I must be a special boy. I got a $20 season-long NBA play. I want to share it with you guys.
Please.
A free flex play. This is like going to be fun for me to track all year. Every time one of these happens, I'm going to update you on the podcast. Luka Doncic, more than 1.5 50-point games. Can Luka score 50 twice? I feel pretty good about that. Giannis Antetokounmpo, more than 1.5 50-point games. Same deal. I'm thinking, we'll see. We'll see.
How many did he have last year? Did he have 3? Because he had the 64.
I know he had at least one that I remember against Indy. I think he had 2.
He came close. Yeah, I was just saying it's at least 2. There might be another 50 in there.
So I'm almost worried about that, just because I think they're going to be a little more balanced, but also I do think there's going to be teams that just can't guard him, especially with improved spacing with Trent and a better Dame. So excited about that. Dame, more than 0.5 50-point games. I'll go in for one Dame heater. I think we could get one of them. Maybe a game Giannis is out. Donovan Mitchell, the same. Just one? I thought, really? Just one for Donovan Mitchell? He scored 70 in a game. What was that, last season? Like, I'll take 50. Steph Curry, more than 0.5. Again, there's just going to be a game where Steph Curry hits like 13 threes, so I'll bank on that. And then Wemby, more than 1.5 triple doubles. I feel pretty good about that too.
Kidding me?
So yeah, I know. That's what I mean. I think these are still up right now. If someone listening, I mean, you probably have to act quickly. Yeah, NBA season. We're still going here. You can also go with points per game average, rebounds per game average. Those projections look tough. Like I look at LeBron James, 24.8 points per game, higher, lower. I don't know, frankly. I like a guy has to do one thing 1 or 2 times. I feel like that's a better play for me. But if you want to check out the NBA season, and also, I mean, we got the games are up now as well. I mean, there's so much you can include in your plays, as well as, of course, NFL. Right now, Anthony Edwards, 0.5 points for opening night later tonight is live in the app, so you can include that. That's basically that's a layup, so to speak. But all of the opening night games are up. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code EuroStep to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, if you're a new user, you do a $5 lineup, you get $50 instantly to come play with us for the rest of the season. That's code EuroStep on the Prize Picks app. You can find a link in the description of the podcast. Prize Picks, run your game. So yeah, every time this season now, I'm going to have that extra little excitement. If I see Giannis at 40 points in the second half, I'm going to say, just leave him in for 5 more dunks, please, Doc. I could use 5 more dunks. So that's one thing I'll be excited about. But let's start with Jordan. What are you most excited about this Milwaukee Bucks 2024-2025 NBA season that we're just about to head into?
Excuse me. Oh.
Whoa.
Awful start.
You're channeling Doc now.
Yeah, I'm getting really gravelly voice. Also, I need to to just this thought occurred to me. Do you remember when Doc Rivers like appointment as Bucks head coach was broken by CNN Sports.
Yes, I watched it
Oh my
live.
God,
I watched
about
that live. I came home from a dinner, I think my birthday dinner, and I just like had flipped on the news, and then I'm sitting there with my wife, and it's just like, and Doc Rivers is gonna be. I was like, what? And I immediately start looking at all the newsbreakers. Nothing. That was one of the wildest, like just crazy. Only Doc, man.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited to see Giannis play in a Bucks uniform. Like it just feels like it's been too long. Not having him play in the playoffs, like it took the air out of it. Obviously, that kind of just sullied what it probably was a more fitting end to last year than we realized. Now that we're kind of removed from it, of just like, yeah, no Giannis. That's it. It just letting whatever air was left in the balloon. But obviously, year 2 of Giannis and Dame, I just think for as much as they were only talking during the offseason, they weren't playing together. I just think there's going to be more to be comfortable with. We're not going to be clutching with straws of just like, how does it look tonight? How can they, is that an assist through a handoff? Like, is it like incorporating themselves within what's being built structurally and not just having like clear chemistry issues or immunity possibly with your head coach? Like, I just think that was such a big, it's hard to not remove that element of last year of once Adrian Griffin was fired, they brought on Doc. We didn't see much of at least the big 3. I think it's 8 games that they have played together so far.
Something like that, yeah.
And it was just more scattershot of just like obviously health and just the lack of chemistry between both pieces. I'm glad that the slate has been wiped clean of just whatever hopefully weirdness we can leave behind to last year and just kind of keep it contained in amber. I'm just like, don't let this infect this year. Also, I like the additions that they have made. It's not to the level of what other teams have done around the East, but I just think it's a lot more functional. I think DeLon Wright can kind of do a little bit of everything, but also he alleviates some of the defensive pressure that's on Damian Lillard if they play together. Get another ball handler behind him too, which is another big thing that the Bucks have never really figured out, is that the years where they fall to the Raptors in the conference finals, George Hill is their better point guard than the guy that they extended with Eric Bledsoe in that same season. And then when they make their run for a title, it's Jeff Teague alleviates what was there before, where it was like DJ Augustine or whoever else. They just have never figured out like the backup point role, and maybe that helps. DeLon Wright helps that. I don't know, but Gary Trent Jr. I think that is.
You're gonna take mine.
Yeah, Ty, you go.
You want to talk about?
Wait, can I go? Actually,
what are you gonna say?
So I'm really excited about Gary Trent Jr. as the Milwaukee. Ty is taking his headphones off. He's backing up. Oh, okay. So the Bucks, I'm just going. The Bucks have been really struggling trying to find a good 2-guard for seemingly ever with the Giannis Chris duo. Like, it started with Tony Snell, and then it's been like
don't you disrespect Tony Snell.
I'm saying the Tony Snell archetype is good. Don't get me wrong here. I've been pounding that drum for years. Shout out Andrew and the Panthers. That's their thing, right?
Keep pounding.
Yes.
Yeah. But they do an actual drum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm not crazy. But it just feels like there's been a rotating door of starting 2 guards for the Milwaukee Bucks. It's been like they've had, this is their 3rd in the last 3 years that they've been really trying out here.
Sorry to interrupt, but like Wes Matthews, who was it in the title run?
Dante,
Drew and Chris. Dante, yeah.
Dante.
He gets hurt. Grayson Allen.
I mean, technically, it was like PJ Tucker for the end of the.
It was PJ Tucker,
yeah,
or however you want to call it. What a weird starting lineup
too. In some way, not starting lineup, but yeah.
Pat was always the bridesmaid, never the bride at the 2 guard.
Yeah, but then you got Grayson Allen, who is probably like the best they've had in recent memory. Malik Beasley. What'd you say, Jordan?
Everybody crapped on Grayson except Rohan, I know. But like
I was always a believer.
Yeah.
But it's just been a rotating door of two guards. And I think Gary Trent Jr. is theoretically the best one they've had in this role. Like, this is a guy who can go out there and get, like, his career high is 44 points in a game. He's hit 9 threes in a game before. This is a guy who can score at all three levels. This is a guy who can handle the ball, who can pass a little bit, who can defend a bit. It's like the total package of what you would want as a starting two guard next to like now Dame, Chris, and Giannis, but just Chris and Giannis, period. Like a guy who can handle multiple different things. Like he's not pigeonholed by saying, oh, you need to be in an offensive only lineup or something like that. He's a guy who can really thrive here, especially with Chris missing time at the start of the season. I've said this before, Ty knows this. I think he can end up having a higher scoring average on the season than Chris. He's definitely capable of doing that type of role, being that type of player, and I'm really, really, really excited to see him take off with this team.
Those are great points.
I have to say, I love when this is a guy analysis. Rohan dropped out like 4 times, and I was like,
oh, yeah.
yes,
this is the guy.
I also think Trent's defense is going to be a big help. Like, I think he's just going to be scalable. I mean, we've seen already he's taken on the challenge. His screen navigation in preseason was fantastic. I mean, he's drawing fouls. He's getting hurt by the dirty Detroit Pistons because he's fighting so hard to get through their pointy-elbowed illegal screens. So I'm excited for that experience. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt anymore doing it. I'll pick a different thing to be excited about. I'm excited for this Dame season, just specifically Dame. I agree with Jordan. I'm excited for Dame and Giannis too. And I mean, obviously they were great together, even though they didn't really have things figured out last season. I think we saw some glimpses in preseason that are pretty exciting of like DHOs and things like that. But I really do think, I was just reading like in the very beginning of this podcast, a new article, an exclusive with Dame that Eric Name was put out on The Athletic. And Dame is fired up, man. Like you can tell he is really sick of this particular noise surrounding him in the Bucks. And, does he not want to be there? Is he washed? Is he done? Whatever. I kind of think he's just going to go ballistic this season. I mean, Rohan and I have talked about, like, could he make an all-NBA team is probably like the ceiling of what he could accomplish. I really do think he's going to do it. Like, I think he's just going to light up the East. I think he's going to be, here's my take. I think Dame is going to be the best point guard in the Eastern Conference this season. I think he is just going to be red hot, destroying teams. And I think because now the Bucks are better building systems to incorporate him, I really think like he was the guy who sacrificed the most last season. I think he was the one getting trapped. He was the one just giving up the ball and probably being a little too passive. I think they're going to have it figured out a little more so, he can leverage Giannis's space. Like, again, Giannis, for all the issues last year, 30 points on 60% from the field. It was his most dominant scoring season ever. I kind of think they're going to figure out more ways to leverage that space for Dame. Like we saw like some of the DHOs where he's just wide open. Like I think he's just going to feast on some of those more looks. It seems like they're giving him more of those calls now that he used to never get as shooting fouls, like the pull-up foul, which is huge for him. So that's what I'm most excited about. I am also excited to see what Doc fully does on both ends. I wrote a little bit about like the defense he mentioned they want to do with like peel switches versus just straight up dropping and, protecting the paint, being physical, playing inside out defense. So that's going to be exciting too. I think, it's also maybe going to be a little concerning. Like I feel like there's going to be some road bumps, especially early in the year. But I can't lie. As much as I wanted to just plug my Substack article, I'm more excited about the real me Dame season that I'm very convinced we're getting.
Who's his? I love that point, that prediction you made about the best point guard in the East. Because last year it was what? Brunson?
Yeah.
Brunson.
So who's the competition? It's him, it's Brunson, Trey,
Maxey.
Halburn.
Let's be serious.
I mean, he went to the conference finals.
Oh, okay. Let's see him do it again.
What's up with that video he sent 50 Cent, man?
I don't know, man.
I don't know what kind of season he's. We got to send this to
Is this
Jordan.
podcast shareable, or is this
No.
do your own research?
I mean, like, yes.
I mean, there's nothing inherently. It's just it was kind of out of
like,
nowhere.
It's framed weirdly.
Yeah.
It's just framed so weirdly.
Yeah.
Let's move on. I don't know if that's gonna. Let's move on.
How does that impact your rankings?
I was gonna say I can't tell. I think it could go either way. Frankly, it's hard to predict these things.
But like, can Dame be better than Jalen Brunson? Yes.
Yeah.
Can he be better than Trae Young? Yes. Can he be better than Tyrese Maxey? He was last season.
Yeah.
So we can do it again. I mean, like, I think that's a great thing to point out, is that he's still capable of being a top level point guard. Yeah. Especially in a weaker East.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you count Luka as a point guard, yeah, the West is just loaded then with him and Steph and probably someone else. I'm forgetting Shea. Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Dame better have a great year, man. We've
spent. I'm convinced.
I know.
Our little guy is going to come through for us.
Yeah, Brooks going to give him some uppies. He's going to get what he needs. But like, it has to happen. It's the only way the Bucks can really succeed this season is with Dame playing top flight basketball. And all we've been saying throughout the offseason is, and coming from Dame himself too, and I have no reason to doubt Dame and what he says because he has that track record of like proving what he says. So maybe I'm just in my own head, but it needs to happen.
I'm not even concerned about it.
I my only concern with Dame, and I'm bullish on him, just to be clear. My only concern is the last couple of years, obviously injury. The Blazers obviously sat him when he was, I mean, his last year in Portland, it was insane. And judging by that standard of what he could bring, like coming out the trade and everything like that, that was an impossible standard for him to reach, especially at a bad Blazers team where, you know, he's putting up 70 points and they're barely scraping by with wins. You know what I mean? My only concern, especially coupled with the fact that Chris is going to miss time. Chris is on a side quest, basically. I would worry about the burden placed on Dame and sustaining that over an 82-game season, and then the playoffs roll around. Like, he is 34. He, he trained with a Navy SEAL.
I was gonna say he did 100,000 crunches, Jordan. He's gonna be fine.
I think he'll be fine, but I do worry that if he shows some signs of, okay, this is a night that he needs off, kind of thing. Yeah. Can the Bucks weather that? How they'll do that kind of game of, well, we'll have Chris this game or whatever, is determined for his own usage. But if Dave needs a night off, how do the Bucks look? It might end up in a loss and it's all moot anyway. But I just don't want it to burn so bright that, again, we would have the same discussion that we unfortunately have been having the last two playoff runs of not having one of your best players available or him not being 100% of what that looks like moving forward if you can get out of the first round or the second round and make a trip to the conference finals. That's my only concern.
To be clear with I'm not expecting a 32 point per game season. I don't think his usage even needs to be that much higher. I just think his effectiveness can be. And I mean, the injuries are injuries, and I think we'll probably talk about that next. I remember before last season, I was like, I wonder if he's going to both lead the Bucks in minutes and play the fewest minutes per game of his career. And I believe he did, or at least since he was a rookie. And I would guess it's going to be pretty similar this season. He's still probably going to lead the Bucks in minutes or maybe, be close to the top. I think he is able to play. I mean, even his bad conditioning, he was able to play that much.
Yes. It's
still going to be a pretty major step down from what he was doing in Portland. So, I mean, there's always a concern with a player, a small quote unquote guard of that age, but I feel okay enough about it, especially given that he got to do his, all the insane stuff he does, the boxing, and he's sleeping better. He said he's eating good. I was reading this piece. He's just there was a funny quote where if you just pulled it out, it's just I'm feeling great. I'm eating daily. And it's were you not?
Yeah.
I hope you were before too, Dame.
It was like part of his like off season was like, yeah, I went down to see the Titanic and made it out alive. Like he's just doing like superhero crap. That's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, here's the quote. I literally was just in Portland this summer, Lillard said, and every day I had my meals. Like, again, I hope that was always the case, man.
Yeah.
Dame was being starved.
Yeah, Dame was just like, I forgot my chef. I'm not eating anything here.
He was just eating fast food every day.
Yeah. We got the Dame meal. Do you guys have I guess the Krabby Patty isn't vegetarian, is it?
I can't imagine it is.
It can't be.
I didn't know. I mean, I think it'd be cool if it was made out of kelp. I was going to ask if you guys have tried it. And I was like, well, Rohan's probably not going to eat a Krabby Patty.
Yeah.
Jordan, have you tried that? I haven't tried it.
I haven't tried it either.
All right, this is a terrible segment. Let's talk about concerns. That was actually, it was apt because that was a concerning little part of the podcast. Thankfully, they're not a sponsor.
I was going to say it'd be worse if it was a sponsor.
They're not going to be a sponsor after that one. I don't even know what is it. Wendy's?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it?
Or is it Arby's? It's
Isn't
not
it
Arby's.
Wendy's?
I think it's Wendy's. It's not McDonald's. No free ads.
No, McDonald's
those
is the
four.
Kai Cenat thing.
It is Wendy's.
It
is Junior Bridgman's Wendy's.
Oh, nice. Okay, maybe it's worth going. I love that Kai Cenat now. They're just like, we need you for 2 seconds in every commercial.
It's awesome. It's just funny.
Like, we need to cut to you once.
Like, at least once in every ad. We need to appeal to the young people.
But it's always the shortest pot, like the horrible
Makes
Mahomes T-Mobile one. Yeah, it does make sense. They're just like, Kai just like says one thing and he's just done. And they have Snoop in there for like a full minute. It's just very funny to me. Okay.
Isn't that NBA is back commercial where it's like
just like
Kawhi
running
Leonard
on
and
the court.
Anthony Edwards tipping off, and it's like, oh god, Kawhi, is he gonna play this season?
Yeah.
Your guys' who's gonna takes are looking way better than mine.
Yeah. Who's gonna play more minutes? Kai in the celeb game or Kawhi before 2025?
Oh man. God. Oh, that's a tough one.
Sorry to put
it might be Kai, man.
Speaking of health, that's my number one concern for the Milwaukee Bucks. I got to get this back on the rails. I don't want a Kawhi sadness to take over. But we're obviously, let's talk about.
No.
Yeah. No.
It's not Kawhi-ness. That doesn't sound right. It sounds like he's fat.
Yeah. That's Harden struggled with that before, his teammate. Kawhi-ness. Let's talk about Chris while we're here, because I think that's the first health thing to talk about. I mean, obviously, I almost like the Dunker Spot asked me for like, what's my big Bucks question to talk about on their preview pod, which I thought was very good, their Central Division. And I think Steve Jones has been one of the more bullish people on the Bucks in terms of national analysts. Not that Nikias hasn't, but Steve was on one of the last now low posts and basically like, what if they're just like 10-1 and everyone else in the East is like, whoa. And I was like, yeah, I think that's very, very possible. Thank you, Steve. But I actually, for the question, I was like, I mean, health is the big one, but let's talk about one more interesting. But it's true, right? I mean, I think as much as it's not fun to talk about and it's hard to analyze, the health is the biggest concern. If Giannis or Dame misses the whole playoffs, they're obviously not going to win a championship, or probably Chris as well. So how concerned are you guys about Chris being quote unquote out indefinitely to start the season, despite potentially almost maybe playing in 2 preseason games? Obviously he didn't. He hasn't played in 5-on-5 yet, but I don't know. I mean, maybe this is just like, me, the definition of insanity, falling for the same thing over and over. I feel like he's not that far away.
I feel I am concerned individually for Chris. I just think his own struggles and injury troubles he's had for 2.5 years now. It's going on 3. Like, he does require a lot of maintenance at this point just to get right. And we still know how good he is. That is the ultimate. It's not this question of his skills are fading. It's really just an availability issue. It's a health issue. And it makes, as you mentioned, it makes it really hard to analyze just like what he means to the team unless he's not out there and what they're missing. Gary Trent Jr. can certainly help make up for that. I think he will be able to make up for that more than Malik Beasley did last year. as a fully fledged scorer, not just like a 3-point sniper. But Chris's ability to just go out there and play, lead the offense, and just kind of be this trusty initiator, scorer, whatever you want to call it. It's a big thing that the Bucks have been missing consistently, even when they haven't had it. They've had it, and then Giannis is out, or it's just like that kind of game that they've always kind of like a cat chasing its own tail. I'm not worried about it for the Bucks per se as a whole, because I think their ability to weather that storm without Chris, they've done it before in different years and different teams. I think they're kind of assuming and taking on from the same perspective. But yeah, it's more of like, you just want to see him healthy first off, period. And then you want to see it come April, May, and June, hopefully. Again, just what he did in the Pacers series, a series that the Bucks lost, but it's still commendable. It's still worth celebrating that this guy is doing these things and his body is ultimately not at the best that he wants it to be and stuff. So yeah, like I think Chris is kind of the flashpoint of the health conversation, but he's so integral to what the Bucks do. It's not just the Giannis and Dame thing. I think a lot of people have come around to this doesn't work without Chris being what he is. And it's played a factor in why the Bucks playoff runs the last 2 years specifically have gone awry. Actually, I shouldn't say 2 years, 3 years have gone awry. So yeah, that's where it's just hard to unwrap Chris from the overall discussion of health for the Bucks.
Yeah, and I think the Pacers series is such a good example. I mean, they're starting to give out awards for every series now. So like, if there was like an Iman Shumpert Memorial Eastern Conference 1v or 2, what was it, like the 3-6 first round matchup series MVP award, it would have gone to Chris. But I don't know why Iman Shumpert.
I love that it was Shump for some reason.
I'm just trying to think of a random guy from the East who's done well in the playoffs.
Vucevic would be the 2-7. What am I thinking?
Yeah, he'd be the 2-7, yeah.
Yeah.
But Chris has done so well, like when he has the opportunity to play in the playoffs, regardless. I think it's just what I've learned from these last 3 years is that it's just unpredictable. It's so unpredictable, like, because these are just random things. Like, what is it? He steps on KD's ankle and he's out for a long time. Like, these are things that randomly happen. That's not going to happen. Like, you can't prevent that from happening if you sit him X amount of games.
You're saying it's an isolated incident? Bayshore Parker?
I am saying it's an isolated incident.
What a callback.
That's a good pull. That's a good pull. But I think it's just so unpredictable. And we've seen with Chris, and he's just, like he said it, he's handled it so professionally. But he's been frustrated with like him coming back and like the slow build up and like not being able to play with the team so much. And again, like there's medical reasons for him to do that. The Bucks medical staff is very well regarded and has high standards, and they should continue doing what's best for their players. Absolutely. This is not me saying that at all. But it must be just so frustrating for him to just not be able to have a normal offseason with his team. And again, like double ankle surgery this offseason, so it doesn't even apply. But does this really influence your strategy with Chris going forward? Like when he's fully healthy, do you say like, oh, we're just going to sit you back to backs? Do you say like, or you just have like a random 3 games off or something, or a game off here and there? Like Joel Embiid has said he's probably never playing a back-to-back again in his life.
Also, we don't know if he's playing opening night yet somehow.
Yeah.
Wait, Embiid?
Yeah. He hasn't played in the preseason at all. Yeah, he's like not ramped up yet or something.
Huh.
That is the other thing, is that like this is the Sixers are facing this. The Knicks are going to face this with whatever center beyond Karl Anthony. Like there's so many health issues facing every
Boston's
team.
coming in without Porzingis.
Yeah, like is it as dire as it is
Paul
to
George?
Yeah. Paul George, yeah. Like everything could be a house of cards for a lot of teams.
The
this year
Heat,
because of, like,
as not to keep going, but like the Heat were cooked obviously as soon as Jimmy was out against. I mean, do I think they were going to be Boston anyway?
and
No,
Rozier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's. Can we stop? Can we stop? If people bring up, and don't forget Rozier. I don't need to remember Rozier. They have three guys who do the same thing. Let's. I don't think
Now
they're
we got
going to be
Scary
good this
Gary.
year. But
We got Scary Gary.
Yeah, there we go.
I love that.
I think about too, like the Nuggets, where it seemed like, the Nuggets, like, Jokic is overrated, like they're not going anywhere because they were just not ever healthy, and then they got healthy and went and won the title pretty convincingly. Like there is a bit of just like randomness, and yeah, now they kind of waited too long.
But
Lost
it's just like
guys.
I think we are very. I again interrupted Rohan, but I feel like the health conversation from a Bucks perspective, we're so insular of just like how we look at it. Whereas the Jamal Murray thing has been like, people looked at what he looked like in the Olympics. So it's like, is he the same guy? Like that is concerning. Like the Warriors, they're getting older. Of what exists between of the light years era. And obviously the Lakers too, that LeBron James is the oldest NBA player and he has so many miles under his belt, and they're playing a different game than a lot of
he's an anomaly though, just an absolute freak.
Isolated incident.
Yeah. Not worried about it happening ever.
No, I wouldn't be,
because it won't. They're trying to do it with their son, and it's not going to work.
Only nerdy ass Wemby who's like, these guys don't work hard enough. Just go to the playoffs.
What?
Like I'm getting sick of him. You didn't hear this?
Definitely
like
the
I lost-
Hispanics thing.
He's like, I lost a lot of respect for guys because you get here and they're not actually working that hard. Go to a party,
Did you
Wemby.
get Sentel?
No.
Oh.
I saw this multiple places.
Oh, okay.
He did have a Sports Illustrated like feature. I think Chris Mannix may have done it. So
Okay, it is real. Okay.
Wow. You just assume boomer ties. Speaking of aging out of relevance, I can't tell what's real or not anymore.
I want to say,
don't put in your social security number for the Wemby story. Jesus Christ.
I want to make sure you didn't get got.
I didn't get got. I didn't get Bucks sentled, or I saw there's a Warriors sentle now.
No,
it's just
that's
disgusting.
too much.
Yeah,
it's too much.
What
were we talking about?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I like. What about outside of health? I mean, I have got a couple things, but what are you guys like otherwise?
Defense.
Okay, go ahead. Go on defense.
Defense, the defensive scheme. You just touched on it a little, where Brook is the canary in the coal mine. But I don't think that's necessarily going to happen this season in terms of him having a complete fall off, because he's been gradually declining in athleticism over the years, and it hasn't really impacted his impact. I could have framed that as a better sentence, but it's just the defense overall, because we've seen just such a fall off in defense compared to what the Bucks have been in years past, last season and coming into this season, and just like it's been a general declining trend in who the Bucks are. And again, it doesn't help when you just swap out one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA with Damian Lillard. Like, I'm not trying to retread on that. I still think it's a very, very good trade, and the Bucks have the better player overall. But it is a shift, right? And you see like guys like Giannis. We've seen this a lot in the preseason time. You and I talked about this, where there were a few preseason games, possessions where Giannis gets switched out to a shooter on the corner, and then he just overhelps, and then it's just a wide open 3-1 pass away. And that's not necessarily Giannis' problem. A little bit is a Giannis' problem, but it's like he's more suited to be around the rim, roaming around the rim. We've known this for years and years now. That's his best. He won freaking defensive player of the year doing that. It's just the pieces around him. How are they going to be able to support that? I think last year was kind of bad because they didn't have the personnel in place to be able to have like a solid defense. I think they do now. Gary Trent Jr. is an upgrade on Malik Beasley in every facet of the game of basketball, except for his 3-point celebration, I will say. But especially on defense, Taurean Prince is a good defensive upgrade. DeLon Wright over Cam Payne, and even Pat Bev is just an upgrade. I think Pat Bev's defense is just overhyped because he just overdoes everything, and that's all we're talking about. Pat Bev.
R.I.P. belt to ass.
Yeah.
All the stuff he talked, and one of the biggest possessions of their season, he absolutely blew it covering Tyrese, got dusted by him, and committed a stupid foul for an and one that sealed the Bucks' fate. I mean, that had some great defensive moments in the series. I think he just runs around and talks a lot, though. I really do.
Russ was right.
I think that effect wore off after a while.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody keeps the guy.
No, you could see it. Like he lit a fire under the Bucks when he first came, and that was good. But then it just wore out immediately, and now he's just whatever. I don't want to talk about Pep anymore. Yeah. But just the defensive personnel around this team has gotten so much better. The one weak spot I have to bring up is Bobby. I think Bobby is the biggest flaw on this team in terms of defense, because even Dame has like not losing you possessions on defense most of the time. Like, I'm not going to say he's out here being a stalwart defender or anything, but he plays. Like, he'll play. Like, he's not going to be just giving like bleeding points. Bobby does. Ty, we've talked a lot about Bobby, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, Jordan. But even early returns so far in this preseason it's still not good. And I just don't know what the Bucks are supposed to do with that in terms of their backup, like front court and their front court in general. Because like knock on wood, like that this doesn't happen, but like one injury, like Giannis or Brooke has to miss like a bit of time, you're starting Bobby. Like these things, or maybe you don't start depending on who it is, but Bobby is going to be playing a significant amount of time in that front court position, and especially near the rim. And it's just like, what is going to happen? What's going to happen with that? And it's something that concerns me a lot.
Liam Robbins hours, baby.
It might be Chris Livingston hours, even though we haven't seen a lot of him. Yeah, it might be Tyler Smith hours, even though he's worse.
His rebounding might be better. He's an energetic rebounder, man. I think that's a
Did you see like the worst shooters in the preseason? Two of the top, like the worst three were AJ Johnson and Tyler Smith.
They ain't playing. They ain't playing at all.
They're playing. Ty's going to see him a lot, and I think that's really good for them. I think it's really, really, really good for them, because they just need actual game reps, because neither of them have played in like a good professional environment or even like a collegiate environment.
I agree, and I think it's promising that like they look like they know what to do. The results just aren't there, but if they can just like fine tune their processes, I think they could both be helpful NBA players. They're just clearly not right now. I actually think Tyler Smith might be closer, but both of them need a lot more refinement, to say the least. Yeah, the Bobby defensive point is interesting, because I just don't know what you do with him. I mean, Jordan, Rohan mentioned you. Like, what do you think about all this? I mean, we haven't gotten to talk to you about Bucks in a little bit. You've been busy totting it up. Great solo tot, by the way. Very much enjoying that listen right now.
Thank you. I am probably the other way with Bobby, in that you live with what he doesn't do well, and you kind of, I feel like the offensive output that he puts in, like whether obviously his ability to space the floor, I think the scoring distribution on this team is a very different kind of conversation than what it was a couple years ago, when Drew was on the team, and how the Bucks looked then, where you needed someone like Bobby to give you a lift off the bench. And he's you're trying to get him in like the 6th man of the year conversation. He's coming up short consistently. But I think because Dave and Giannis, and then when Chris is healthy, you add in Gary Trent, even Brooke too, like Bobby just gets overlooked of what he's able to bring to the table. And like he's a flawed player in terms of what he does defensively. He's better out in space, but even that comes with a lot of questions of how the Bucks would be able to defend the backside, because it takes out your big in the equation, and then it obviously asks for a lot of the guys, help defenders to protect the rim, chase out the shooters, all that stuff. He compromises you defensively, but I think the trade-off of what he gives you scoring the ball essentially equals out, or ideally equals out. He's always going to be this trade fodder that we're always going to workshop for the trade machine. And until that actually happens,
Larry Nance, man, it's perfect.
I knew you were going to say Larry Nance.
Obsessed.
Previously, now with the new
Or you
CBA,
turned on Google alerts for Bismack Biyombo. I don't want to hear it.
You telling me he wouldn't have helped last season?
I'm not saying. Are you saying Larry Nance wouldn't have helped last season?
Bobby had a pretty good year last year. He was the 8th man of the year.
That's what. Well, I was gonna say that after the 8th man of the year, but I
tried to call him the 15th man of the year, and Rohan got mad. I don't know why I multiplied instead of adding the numbers. Rohan was like, "You can't do that to him."
I feel like he just is this natural target of, because he is a big, and bigs are so important to how the Bucks played structurally, like defensively, that if it doesn't look like Brook Lopez or Giannis, obviously, it's not going to compete. And I for one, am not asked.
Like, yeah, it's a very good point. Sorry to interrupt, but it's just like, who are the non-defensive important big men in the NBA?
One of them starting in Minnesota, baby.
I was gonna say, and New York.
Yeah, yes. I guess they traded 1 for 1.
Yeah,
but at least Julius Randle was not a center. And neither was Bobby, really.
I don't think either of them have a true position. That's kind of the issue.
It's Bobby, if he had come around like even 10 years ago before the 5-out kind of, he is like the quintessential stretch 4. It's just that because basketball is progressing towards all 5 guys on the floor are able to create, shoot, dribble, defend multiple positions, it looks wonky. I think also too, it's from a Bucks like roster perspective. Chris is getting older, and when he's healthy, he's better suited at the 4 defensively. Like, take him off of kind of the more guard guys. Giannis, same thing. Taurean Prince. It's like,
and they just have more shot creators on offense too.
Yeah,
I think Bobby was more essential on the Drew Holiday Bucks.
I think,
especially with Dame, Gary Trent Jr. Like, these are more creators in addition to Chris and Giannis.
Yes, I think that is ultimately, not to squeeze at my point of what is a concern. I think the Bucks, if everything works well, it's a team that could really win a title a couple of years ago. But when the Celtics are playing the way that they are and have built their roster, where all 5 guys touch the ball, it may not look good, and Jason Tatum might wilt in the finals, and they still just steamroll the Mavericks because they're just that superior compared to them. But I think that the way that team has built their roster, and Brad Stevens specifically, of just accumulating.
No, here's the thing. I blame the Grizzlies and I blame the Wizards for just making some of the stupidest trades I've ever seen.
Marcus Smart.
Yeah, and then they traded Marcus Smart for Porzingis and a first somehow. They got picks.
Yeah. That's stupid. That was dumb. But I just think that they have won a title of super spaced out. You have to test your opponents and just ability to guard all 5 guys on the court and leave an open lane for the, ideally that's how they want to play. Leave an open lane for whatever driver goes to the hoop and scores. I just think it's a really hard yardstick to meet up against with how the Bucks have built this team. Does it mean that they can't beat them in a playoff series? I'm not saying that necessarily, but I just think things are progressing elsewhere. And I think the Knicks are trying to get to that too, that the Bucks' best still might not be good enough compared to what it looks like in Boston or New York or whoever else might emerge.
Quickly, just on Bobby. 49 minutes, 49 points scored in 3 preseason games. 75% from the field, 82% from 3. And they lost those 49 minutes by 11 points. That's the concern. It's just like he can literally shoot 81.8% from 3, score 1 point per minute himself, and they get blitzed in his 3 games. So we'll see. I mean, obviously there's a lot of noise in any 49-minute sample, but it did feel like there was, the Bucks starting unit's defending pretty well. Oh, Bobby checked in. Oh, there goes that. So I think he's going to have to figure out, and they're going to have to figure out a better way to put him defensively.
I will say I didn't mean to turn that into a Bobby thing. I know I did, because like I'm not saying it was anyone else but me, because it was me. But it was mostly like a concern over what this defense is going to be like in general. But I think the biggest concern there is Bobby, because otherwise it does seem like a unit, especially compared to last year, that can really put together some like strong defensive sets and schemes.
Yeah. I like the match. Oh, go ahead, Ron.
Oh, no, go ahead. You're still talking about defense.
Well, I was just going to say I like the matchup question from Jordan, and it is the Bucks are pretty different stylistically. They're going to be, I guess, more just offensive centric and probably a lot of pick and roll centric with Giannis and the guards they have. My other thing, though, was my concern, and I think the stuff we talked about is more pressing. I'm a little concerned about a lack of development from the young Bucks. It felt like a month ago we were going to have 2, maybe plus of the quote-unquote younger Bucks. I'm not counting Gary Trent, even though he's not that old. Obviously, he's pretty much a known commodity. Like the guys they've actually brought in, drafted, or brought up through the G League, like AJ Green. I still think AJ Green's going to play this season. I don't know if it's actually a sure thing anymore, like regularly. But in terms of like Marjan, we're getting reports he might be getting shopped from Jake Fisher. Ajax has not had a great summer. Chris Livingston, we've just barely seen. So it does feel like, and we talked about the rookies were like 2 of the 3 worst shooters in the whole preseason. So I do worry that we won't have as much of that presence. I mean, I think guys are still going to get opportunities. I mean, we're talking about the health concerns, right? And we're doing a 10-man rotation with Chris. Well, he's not playing at least night 1. So that's going to be one more player who gets in the rotation, right? Every time someone's out, that's one more player who probably gets a shot. There's going to be opportunities, but I do worry that outside of maybe AJ Green, none of these other guys have kind of stepped up and looking like they're ready to, push like a Pat Connaughton out of the rotation. Pat's been really good, but that's a separate, you know what I mean, right? Like these guys I don't think have like, oh, that guy's going to be a real player for the Bucks for a long time.
You know what's crazy, by the way, is that AJ Green and Gary Trent Jr. are the same age.
They're what?
Yeah, they're both 25.
Yeah.
Oh.
AJ Green is like younger, like way younger. It's almost a year, because he just turned 25 like this month in October, and Gary Trent Jr. is January. So it's it's almost a year. But currently they're both 25.
So either they're both young Bucks or neither is, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's say they both are.
Sure.
To make us
the young core looks great now.
Makes me, I think that'll make me feel better to say that they're both young Bucks. But I do think it is a little bit concerning, right? And it's tough with the picks that you have if you're the Bucks. Like you don't have good picks. But I mean, your last 2 first-round picks. I mean, it's a little bit unfair to AJ Johnson right now because that was like 4 months ago. But both do not do anything super well on a basketball court. And it's not, I mean, at least Marjan has shown some defensive prowess.
Yeah.
In the preseason, but he can't do anything else. It's really
Spurs, are you listening? He's shown a lot of defensive prowess.
But it's just, it's so unfortunate, right? That there hasn't been a lot of like young guys popping for this Bucks team. And given that, like I said, they haven't had a ton of opportunities, it's been like the AJ Green story has been great. Like the Bucks finally got an undrafted guy who was able to like work his way into the rotation, but his shooting has just cratered ever since like the regular season ended last year. It just like the playoffs and now preseason, he didn't go to Summer League, obviously, but the shooting hasn't been great. I have confidence that he's going to be able to get that back, but
that's how it started last year though, too.
Yeah, no, fair.
Like he is just kind of streaky. I think until you get enough reps and on like in an NBA setting, it's going to change where you're playing next to Dame, Giannis, Chris. When you're carrying the load in a summer league game where you're just getting the pants beat off of you, like it's not going to look great.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Like preseason probably wasn't the best environment for him, and it was his first postseason, so maybe that's just two conflating things. But it's also like two conflating things in a row, which is
that's true.
little unfortunate, but he has a lot of time to be able to prove it. I think he has Doc's trust. I think he has the team's trust. I mean, like every time he shoots the ball, I'm like, oh, that is a decent shot of going in. Like, it's he has that confidence. If that portrays through me watching it, I think the team's got it. So, it is just a little bit concerning about the young guys. I mean, we already said AJ Johnson, Tyler Smith, not going to see real minutes this year unless something awful happens, not but or something really good. Maybe just one of them turns into prime Steph.
Or they're just like they have one of those like 2021 years where the Bucks are just, or 1920 years where they're just blowing everybody out. It's just like, oh, okay, sure, we can give AJ Johnson 10 minutes a night. If the Bucks are up by 35 points, probably won't choke that lead away.
I used to think that was boring. I miss that. I would give anything for that.
Mike Budenholzer is going to transform Phoenix Suns' lives in ways that they have no idea about.
He's looking good, man. Good for Bud.
Yeah.
But for the young guys, I mean, Marjan's not going to, like I said, like you said, Ty, is being shopped. It's just, it's a tough.
9 days until that fourth year option.
I don't think that's being picked up.
I will say, I wonder, like, is that a factor if they are actually shopping him? Like, hey, team, do you want the cost-controlled fourth year or not? It's like 4.2 or 4.7 million. The Bucks are for sure not paying that. I will say that. But, you know, if you actually are high on Marjan and you want to actually give him a run, maybe you would want it. I mean, if you're not like in the tax, that's a pretty cheap, contract.
Renegotiate Tobias Harris's contract, send him over.
No.
I don't know.
No, I actually would just say no.
Why not?
I don't want to.
You wouldn't take a free Tobias Harris.
No, I really wouldn't. I think I don't
I
think
would take
anyone
a free
is
Tobias Harris.
What's the last team fan that enjoyed watching Tobias Harris? Price not factored in.
The Clippers.
The Magic.
Maybe the Clippers.
So like 2 teams ago.
Yeah, and what were they?
He was almost an all-star with the Clippers.
Wow.
That's true.
And then he went to the Sixers, and then the Sixers were just a dumpster fire. And it's not his fault.
I mean,
he didn't choose to be picked over Jimmy Butler.
I know. I mean, but he was the guy who was. They picked him, and things went really bad. So I'd say that's a little bit his fault, at least. I mean,
not a good start.
Not totally divorced from it.
Obviously, this is never going to happen because the contract, like he's not giving up $20 million or whatever it is. But you would not take a free Tobias Harris.
That's the kind of player that drives you crazy, I think, at any cost.
I would absolutely take a free Tobias Harris.
Would you walk into a Jewel Osco and get a free Tobias Harris?
Yeah, this is the difference between Rohan. Rohan sees a $3 bottle of disgusting vodka. He's got to take it. I don't have to.
It was 75% off. What am I supposed to do?
I'm confident in my liquor cabinet. I don't need the cast off.
I was like, it's a novelty. For context, by the way, because this is just really random. I was at Jewel Osco yesterday, and there was just like a sale going on. It was like 75% off on these random bottles of alcohol, and it was like the hot pepper flavored vodka. Like, and so I was like, it's $3.40 or whatever. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna try it. Like, might as well. Like, why not?
See, this is the key difference between us.
You wouldn't just get that out of the novelty?
No.
Come on,
I can't tell you the last time I cracked a bottle of vodka in my own house, to be honest with you.
You gotta live, man. It's not just it's just like the novelty of it. Like it's not because it was vodka. It's like if it was like a smoothie or something, I would have gotten that too.
I mean, it's a crazy different scenario. The problem with a novelty bottle of vodka is that's just eating up space wherever you put alcohol, probably for years. If I don't
want it, it was so cheap, so it's like I can just dump it.
We'll see. No one wants to dump.
Just like Tobias Harris, you could just dump him. That's what you could.
That seems real easy until you get to. Oh wait, nobody wants this.
So yes, I would take the free Tobias Harris.
Okay.
Live a little, Ty.
I've lived too much. Some would say. I got free Malik Beasley, and it drove me insane.
Yeah.
And now we got a free Gary Trent Jr. So
that's better. I'm on board for more free. If there's other Gary Trent Juniors out there, maybe Gary Trent Sr. No. Yeah, I don't know about the young buck. I'm just gonna push forward. Honestly, like we're to a point where Liam Robbins, I'm like one of the three most exciting young bucks at this point.
And this is just
All-time hair.
All-time hair.
Rohan doesn't like it.
I think it doesn't fit him. It looks Australian.
I see. I don't.
I've
think
always
looks
thought
like
he
a
was.
country
I
guy.
thought he was Australian. Then I saw the thing that he's from Waukesha. I was like, what? I would not say that's
Not
the
to say that
Australia
I
in the
don't like
Midwest.
people who are Australian. By the way, I want to make sure that's very clear.
What about people
like,
from Waukesha?
I like people from Waukesha. Or as the great Jason Terry would say, Waukesha.
Waukesha.
That was a great video.
Yeah.
But it's just
they
like
put
it just doesn't fit
Ashwaubenon in front of the Herd players, and they're just like, "Why are you doing this to me?"
Okanto.
Oconomowoc. That one is also a tough pull.
Yeah.
But I just don't think the hair fits him. I think it's a good hairstyle in general. Like, I'm not trying to hate on the hairstyle or hate on him.
It sounds like you got your hater hat on and your hater hair on.
Wow.
No, I got my naysayer hat on.
Oh, sorry.
And my naysayer hair on. That's what we call a callback.
Let a naysayer know.
What was I saying?
Liam
Robbins.
Hair.
Yeah.
He's an exciting young player, and that's just a little unfortunate. But
yeah,
it's what happens when you're a title contender, right? And when you're like built in to try and win a title, you have to like work around the margins, right? It's just like this is the same. Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
This has been the situation for the Bucks for like 5 years now. I'm not even shocked at this point. I'm not even surprised.
Yeah.
I
think there's just a glut. There's such a glut of them now. It's really like what, 6 guys?
Yeah.
Without counting the two-ways between AJ Johnson, Tyler Smith, Marjan, Andre Jackson Jr., AJ Green. Am I missing someone?
Chris Livingston.
Yeah, like
so 9
and Gary
if you
Trent
include
Jr.
the two ways. Yeah, and Gary Trent Jr.
Ideally, you have your top 9 is locked in, and then those guys are trying to like claw and scratch for minutes.
Yeah,
and we'll see them maybe 1 hour every. It won't be like that, but like the AJ Green, I feel like has, as you mentioned, Ty, like has the best shot of seeing more regular minutes, but it's still tough to fend off a Pat or obviously Gary Trent Jr. who's in the starting lineup.
What do we think about Ajax? He's a guy we haven't talked about a bit. I know I've said before that it looks like he's regressed as a player, and it's just it's really tough to really watch because nothing he seems like he does on the court is positive. I'm interested to hear your take, Jordan.
I think he's the hardest player to have play in any non-regular season or playoff environment because one, he doesn't have confidence as a shooter, as a scorer.
No. He
plays well when there's established pieces next to him, like a Dame, Giannis, Chris, Brooke. It's why I'm just going to be honest. I did not watch any preseason game this year. And I was more just like relieved. Or just like, I don't want to like look in and like project what could be based on, 5 preseason games or anything like that. But like, I think Andre Jackson Jr., because he's a Swiss Army knife, but like in a very just like defensive way, or just like the high energy role player, athletic upside guy that if you're asking him to initiate or be like a focal point offensively with lesser talent around him, it's going to look like crap. Like it's not going to look good. So I think for him specifically, like I'll be more patient with him, how it looks over the course of a year or of the season next to, the big fish or the big pieces in place. But yeah, like I'm always going to be bullish on him just because I think he offers something to the table of youthful athleticism that the Bucks just generally have lacked. And I think there is a world where, not to keep referencing a playoff series that the Bucks ultimately did not win, but Andre Jackson Jr. was making an impact of when this guy's on the floor, he can defend, high level scorers or the best players on another team. Sometimes he might get beat on possessions, and that's going to happen. But with more reps, I think you trust him in doing that, with more experience on his side rather than, I think Doc was quick to pull him because of, playoff series and trying to win every possession. But yeah, that's just my take of just like, he's such a hard guy to like evaluate when there's not the best players around him, because he's not that kind of, he's more of a puzzle piece that can figure out how to lock everything together, not like this one that just everything else has to fit around him.
I still just worry about his fit with Giannis. Like, even when he's looked good, I mean, again, I've shared it 1,000 times, but the Bucks lost his minutes with Giannis together last regular season, which I think makes sense intuitively, right? Like, when he and Giannis are on the floor, teams are just going to ignore Andre Jackson Jr. And I think he needs to learn whether it's continuing to fire threes. And I don't think his shot has looked as good as it did last year, which is an issue. So, I mean, they went in, but it didn't look good. Or like being able to actually get to the rim, which he's just not done on a consistent enough basis. I do think he's going to need to figure out something offensively besides just like running toward the paint and whipping the ball back out every time. Because again, that you just don't have to be guarded. But defensively and athletically, he definitely added something. I feel like the hope is the Bucks are in like less dire need of that with Trent and with Prince and with Wright. Like, they're still not spring chickens or like uber athletic, but like Prince got back in semi-transition and blocked a three, right? Like there's a little more juice than like Jay Crowder or just Pat C when Jay Crowder was out, or, Campaign was giving you on the defensive end, or Beasley in the case of Trent Jr. So we'll see. He's definitely probably, I mean, AJ Green shooting, if you want to count him, but otherwise probably has like the most standout, I guess, skill or trait. Just like his 99th percentile athleticism does jump off the screen or off the court when you're watching him. When he's able to show it off, he just needs to be able to more consistently use it. It just feels like sometimes, mostly offensively, he's just like terrified. So he needs to get over that fear. He's like in Moneyball when they move the catcher to first base, and David Justice is talking to him, and he's like, what are you afraid of? Oh, the ball being hit anywhere toward me. That's what I get from Ajax right now, and I would just like him to a little less fear. Just go try and dunk every time. If he just tried to poster someone every time he had the ball, I'd actually just be happier.
And he'd probably succeed.
I mean, this guy would pass out of a drive in a dunk contest right now. Like they need to get him some athleticism. They need to get him some just more confidence going toward the rim. He has the athleticism.
Yeah.
If we're done with concerns, I do have a little exercise for you guys.
Oh, let's jog.
First off, this is just unrelated, but every single member of the Celtics rotation last year shot more than 35% from three, and I think that's just annoying. And I think I hate that, and I hate it. I hate everything. I think that's what I think. But my exercise is let's do our awards predictions. This season.
Bucks only or league wide?
League wide. Okay. It's NBA kickoff.
Are we starting with the big one?
Start? Yeah.
I'll start. Coach of the year I think is going to Mike Budenholzer.
I feel like the last few. Sorry.
Who won last year?
Oh God, who did win last year? Was it Dagnall?
I was gonna say if it wasn't him, then him. I think it was him though.
It was Dagnall. Yeah.
It was? Okay.
How often do they give it to someone twice? I mean, I feel like they're gonna be probably the best regular season team. Actually, you know what? I'll go Sybil. Missoula.
No, maybe.
Yeah. This is a weird one because they're just like, who do we feel like has earned it based on the last 3 years for some reason? So I'll go with Missoula.
I was going to say Bud because it's like, taking a team from, the kind of mediocrity that they were to just like, they should be a powerhouse.
That is where we're going. Because I'm looking at the previous coaches of the year. But since basically Bud in the 60-win season, his first in Milwaukee. Nick Nurse in 2019-20, obviously coming up with the championship. Tom Thibodeau in 2020-21. Monty Williams the year next when they went 64-18. And then
Say 64-18.
The Suns were really good, and they got
They went
demolished by Luka.
64-18. Oh my god!
Mike Brown the year after, because the Kings went to the playoffs, and they were 48-34, and then Dagnall for 57-25. I would say it's trending towards. Okay,
which team is going to? It's going to be the most improved team.
Yeah,
Suns won 49 games though.
That's fair.
That is.
I mean, I think they'll look better, but they weren't as bad as it felt.
Could it be like a Chris Finch?
I think I have
maybe.
Mine.
Yours is going to be Will Hardy because you just love the Jazz for some reason.
It's not Will Hardy.
20-62 Coach of the Year, Will Hardy.
The guy is really good at all phases of coaching.
Should have been 10-72, so it's really impressive.
I have two. It's either Kenny Atkinson, if the Cavs pan out.
They love new hires.
A lot of buzz for Cavs jump this year. I think the Strus injury does not help them. Speaking of Jamal Mosley, if the Magic pop.
Yeah, Mosley's a really good one.
Yeah, Mosley's a good one. Or
I would go with Mosley more than Atkinson.
No, I think Jamal Mosley is a good shout. I could see maybe JJ Redick if the Lakers are good.
No, that's a huge if. They are a reality show, Rohan.
Yeah.
Okay, so what other awards are there? I don't know why I jumped to Coach of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year. I'm going Wemby.
Wemby is like actually favored over the field right now, which is kind of crazy.
If he plays like the majority of games, like he's gonna win it.
They just have to make the playoffs for him to win that, right? Like that's.
I think he just has to play like 70 games.
I don't even think they have to make the playoffs. I think he just has to play a lot. But the thing is, he did play like 60 something games last season, and he didn't win.
And he finished second.
Yeah, he came second.
Still, that's still crazy. When they won as little as they did.
And I think the Spurs are going to be a lot better this year than they were last year with Chris Paul.
The Vassell injury is.
Chris Paul, Harrison Barnes raises the floor of your team.
I like Castle for them a lot.
Yeah, Castle might pop year one.
Man,
no TNT, but I like Castle.
Nice. That's a double entendre. Pop TNT. I mean, Wemby, it's probably almost obvious at this point. I'm trying to think of who else would even... Like, does Drew finally get one? Probably not. Playing right next to Derek White.
Yeah, it's too hard.
Is it going to be Rudy again? That'd be pretty funny. I doubt it. I don't think the Bucks are getting really any. Bobby. Now sign me up for that version of this NBA season. Bobby just decides to be Bruce Bowen this year.
Yeah, I think it's got to be Wemby. The fact that he was second last year in Defensive Player of the Year voting and they won however many games it was, like, if they make the playoffs, he's gonna win it. That's how important he is defensively.
Let me do a combo here. Let me get Herb Jones, DPOY, and I don't even remember his name, but Pelicans coach of the year. Random Pelicans
Willie
2
Green?
seed. Yeah, Willie Green. That's my dark horse combo pick.
I don't hate that. I think the Pelicans are in disarray.
I don't believe in that.
But
yeah, I mean, I don't believe in that at all. But
they're starting.
That's why it's a dark horse.
Who are they starting at center?
Herb Jones.
Yeah, they're starting Herb Jones at center. That's what I thought.
So that's why it's like if their defense actually works, I think that's a huge prop to Herb Jones, man.
Yeah, if it works, like he has to be recognized for that because that's insane.
Yeah,
so
it's not going to, but if it does,
let's see what other awards. Rookie of the Year.
Edie.
I'm gonna say Edie or Buzelis.
I think the Bulls are too much of a mess.
That's fair. I think if they trade Levine early and just say, "Hey, Matas, you can do whatever you want."
But they do that. They still have Kobe White. They still have Vooch. Like they have to dump so many guys and Giddey for Matas to really be like a big stats guy. And I think that's what swings these awards.
That's fair. Then it's probably Edie. I mean, maybe Castle if he like he's looked good and that was a great call out, Jordan. Because we'll see if that happens. Or maybe just
sell early, he's going to get touches.
What if Risache is just really good?
Yeah,
like, I don't think it's going to happen. But like, what if he's just insane?
Starting on a play-in team at least.
Yeah.
Hawks destiny.
Yeah.
I'll go Edie.
I just think he could have the rare good stats and good team combo, and that's kind of like a guaranteed rookie of the year.
And
Usually
like
it's one or the other.
for a team that should be pretty good.
Like Brogdon versus Embiid kind of deal. Like usually it's one or the other. What was it? Saric versus like Wiggins, I think I tried to argue Saric.
Yeah.
I forget who the guy was that year, but like, oh, this guy's 10 less points per game, but he's like a role player on a really good team. That should count more. I think he's going to be both. Like I think he's going to be like 15 and 12 on a playoff team in the West.
Yeah. There's some easy choices there.
Most improved.
I hate this award.
I hate it.
Wemby's the favorite right now.
How does that make any sense? Makes no sense.
He's awesome.
You can't win Rookie of the Year and then win Most Improved the next year.
Jalen Williams was like third. I was like, Jalen Williams was an all-star candidate last season. What is he going to be? Prime MJ? Like what is this award for?
Suggs.
There shouldn't even be favorites. Yeah. Let's see what happens. The whole point is it's unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know he just got rewarded, but Suggs has really turned it around.
Suggs is a good shout. I like that.
I just don't know if I think he would just need to take a big leap off. I just don't know if he's going to do it. Maybe if he does, then for sure, because he'd just be awesome at that point. I have very little feel for this.
Yeah.
Like Josh Giddey.
God.
Probably not though. Again, their team is just like too much of a mess.
I
don't know.
I have to look at last.
Andre Jackson Jr.
Who won last year?
I don't remember.
Who did? Like seriously, who won?
Kobe White? Was it Kobe White? It should have been. Kobe White.
It was Kobe White. It was Kobe White.
Was it though? I don't know if he actually won.
It was Maxey.
No, it was Maxey. What?
Yeah, that's stupid.
The year before was Markkanen, then Ja.
That's a good one. Markkanen's a great one. It should be more like that.
I was convinced it was Kobe White.
It should have been Kobe White. Tyrese Maxey already awesome.
Yeah, he was.
I think they should rebrand this one because this is dumb. It probably will be Wemby. Like if you're betting, Wemby's probably, but that's stupid. Wow, the generational prospect has developing as we hoped he would. Here you go.
Yeah. Rookie of the Year, though. What about like Dalton Connect?
Oh wow,
he's gonna have a good year.
Sorry, Tyrese Maxey got 319 points for voting, and then Kobe White got 305. So it was really close.
Oh wow,
that's good.
Sengun was third.
That's a good one too. Yeah,
Sengun could pop. I don't know. I don't have too much of a feel.
It's too open of everybody's. I feel like system of voting for most improved player. They live by their own codes and it doesn't. It's not a universal one.
Yeah, you could see that in the voting, right? Like two schools of thought. Connect, I don't hate for Rookie of the Year. Again, he'll get the Lakers buzz at least, but
or Shepherd.
Yeah, Reed Shepherd might be.
I think he's going to be one of the best rookies. I just worry that they're a little too full of guys for him to do enough.
Jalen Green.
They have so many young players.
Most world-shattering 2+1 contract extension ever.
Yeah.
MVP?
Sixth man of the year. I'm clearly trying to save MVP to last, Jordan. I don't know how you haven't picked up on this.
I'm giving it to Bobby this year.
Okay.
He's due from 8th man to 6th man of the year.
Or like Malik Monk is perennial candidate.
Yeah.
Naz Reid did win it last year.
I don't think.
Some of these teams, I'm like, he might end up starting, so I don't want to pick him.
I think the thing is with the Wolves is if Randall misses time, then Naz Reid inserts into the starting lineup.
Or if Randall Gobert just doesn't work as isn't going to work, then maybe they just have to start Naz Reid anyway.
Yeah, maybe. That's why I'm thinking maybe not Naz Reid. There's just it's kind of like it's in flux what the front court for the Timberwolves is going to look like. Bobby might be a safe bet. He's going to put up the stats. We know that.
I think Malik Monk is a pretty good likely. I think he is favorite now. Just with the DeRozan addition, I think there's almost no chance he ends up starting unless they have a major injury. Like I think before I was kind of like, oh, is he just good enough to start on this team? And now you're probably like, no, he does make more sense. But maybe there's just less touches for him too. So I don't know how that's going to impact him really.
Yeah. It's not a
A lot of
stacked field
offense
this
there.
year.
No, I feel like that's a very top heavy award. It's literally like the best guy that's not starting. That's just or best.
Is Kobe
obviously
White
best
starting for
scorer.
Chicago?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's gotta, right?
Such a weird lineup. Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Josh Giddey, Patrick Williams, Vooch. Ugh.
Well, I think Pat Will is already out, right? He's got an injury.
Is he actually? Oh,
One
he's like-
replacement level player down. Javonte Green can step up and give you most of the same. Executive of the year.
that award's probably already been decided.
Yeah,
It's
the
probably
next
going
guy?
to be. Yeah, I was going to say it's what's his name?
Leon
no.
Rose.
Leon Rose.
Leon Rose. Yeah, it's probably Leon Rose.
Added Cat, Mikal Bridges, kind of OG, even though that was last year, but they still have him.
Yeah.
Unless they suck.
Yeah, I'm like, there's a chance that doesn't work because Mikal is not.
Presti?
Yeah, maybe they give it to. Were you going to say Presti, Jordan?
Presti.
Yeah. I mean,
like, what did they do?
they got Hartenstein and Caruso,
Hartenstein.
and sometimes I think they do give you one like you assembled this team over the last couple of years.
He actually now that I think about it, I'm checking to see if he got it last year.
I don't think he did. I think it was Stevens.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no.
I think Horst got it in 18-19.
Yeah,
And
the first Bud year.
Yeah, they added Bud and Brooke, which worked out amazing, but it wasn't like the year they added a star player. It was kind of just like, oh, okay, you put together this
And
thing
Pat.
that became.
Dude, Monty McNair got
not a
it the
good
year
start.
before. The Kings ran a gamut on this
Oh,
freaking
yeah.
what?
I mean, hey, if that's something we can look forward to post Giannis when they're inevitably horrible for a long time is when you break that playoff drought, then you get a bunch of awards.
It literally happened to the Bucks. You're one
I mean,
of
they
both.
they didn't have the same kind of drought, but yeah, it did.
Yeah, they got Coach of the Year, Executive of the Year, MVP.
At least they won 2 playoff series.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Hey, voting happens before the playoffs.
That's true.
Yeah.
What other awards are there?
I think now it's just MVP.
Did we say
Clutch Player of the Year.
Honestly, I think Dame has a better shot because DeRozan and Fox will cannibalize each other.
That's true. Steph
Although
won last year.
Giannis had better clutch numbers than Dame last season too. So
yeah, I think Dame has a pretty decent shot actually. Assuming the Bucks are in close games.
if they're as good as we hope, maybe he won't. For like maybe it'll be Steph again because they're like grinding out 41 wins close every night.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a thing
Brunson?
like I think if you're on a really good team, you don't win this.
Yeah.
How is it
that's
not
true.
DeMar last year?
No, Steph won last year. DeMar was second.
Didn't
DeMar
DeMar
won
have
2
like an
years.
insane? Oh, okay.
I think he won 2 years ago.
Like I know Fox was a favorite early last season, so I kind of think him and DeMar could cannibalize him, but maybe DeMar just takes it. I mean, DeMar in a late game, like it is.
I trust him more than Fox.
Yeah, for all his faults, I mean, you don't want to go against that guy if the other team needs 2 points with 10 seconds left.
Chris
Kind of
Middleton.
his deal. I just think that it's too many guys in front of him.
Okay, fine. We can do MVP.
Shea's got to be the favorite, right?
yeah.
I think Shea is the favorite, or yeah.
I'm pretty positive. I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
I would think it's either him or Ant.
Or Luca.
So, yeah, Luka's up there. Just
I
because
think
he's Luka more than the team, I think.
That is true.
I don't like the Mavs this year. I think they got worse.
But who in the West outside of OKC got better?
That's a good question.
I'm pretty low on
The
like
Spurs?
the whole middle of the.
Minnesota?
I mean, yeah, but like of like the playoff teams, the Suns maybe.
I think the Suns got better. They have an actual point guard. They have a good roster, good
Yeah.
coach.
So,
What'd
I
you
don't
say,
know what
Jordan?
the Pels are.
Minnesota?
I don't know if
think
Minnesota got better.
got better.
No, I don't know. I mean, obviously, compared to last year, I think regular season success wise, they were a 2 seed. Or
Yeah.
it's hard to meet that standard, but I don't know about
I just
playoff
think-
wise. I think they might be.
I think
better.
continuity wise, like
They
they're
went
just
to
gonna-
the
I think them and
conference
Knicks are
finals
just taking
last
a
year.
hit.
Jordan.
I know, but Karl Anthony Towns like had whiplash.
Won them
like,
a game 7 against the Nuggets.
That was pretty much the only game he won them too.
but he did it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they could have just won in like 5 and maybe had a better rest of their run. That is 100. He's been objectively terrible almost all the time in the playoffs.
I know, but like, I don't know. I don't think they got better in terms of playoff equity. Like Julius Randle are you saying is that a better playoff equity? Dante with his decades of playoff experience. Like what? How long has he been?
Title. He's a champion. He's got the heart of a champion, and now he's got a beard that makes him look like he's like Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid or something.
He's yelling at people's dads.
Yeah. Daddy Brunson.
He's yelling at his friend's dad.
Yeah, kind of weird. Kind of a weird setup there.
Actually, I'm going to change my vote. Rick Brunson gets Executive of the Year voting. That's what he's going to get.
An assistant coach wins Executive of the Year. I love it.
Yeah. I mean, maybe.
MVP, though, like, could we see Giannis doing it? I don't think so if we predict a good Dame season.
If the Bucks are the ones, I think Giannis wins it.
Yeah, I think they'd have to be 1 or maybe a 2, and they're just not going to give it to someone on Boston because they have like 4 guys within 2% of each other.
Yeah.
I think it's Shea.
Shea's the cleanest. My dark horse, 3-way dark horse Pellies. Give me Zion.
Ooh. That would... I don't even know how that would happen. Like, I can't foresee a future where that happens, but I'm here 70.
He plays 75 games. That's how it happens. Zion is really good.
He is.
I've kind of flipped on Zion. He's just like totally unguardable. He just can't stay out there, and their team is weird. Their team is still weird, but
no, dude's a monster. I just don't think the team is very good.
They need a center so bad.
Yeah. They're gonna trade for Jonas again.
Honestly, they can't, but they should if they could. I don't think they can all year.
Can they not?
Oh, maybe they can. No, maybe they can.
Because it's a different league year.
Can. Yeah, well, it's not a trade either. Yeah, maybe they can. Regardless.
Okay, I think that's all the awards. But yeah, the NBA season is here. The Bucks play their first game tomorrow on ESPN against the 76ers at some time. I should know.
6:30 Central.
6:30 Central?
It's probably like 6:50 Central, that means. But yeah, the listed start time is 6:30 Central. So earlier one. Nice.
Okay, I appreciate that. But yeah, we're going to have you covered for all things Bucks all season long. It's been a fun season preview for this podcast. Appreciate you all listening. Make sure you're subscribed to GSPN Premium. You could listen to a commercial-free feed of this podcast. $8 a month, written content. Ti has some good Substack stuff going on right now.
Trying to keep up with Jordan here.
I know, got to keep up with Jordan. All the fun Substack stuff you get access to. Commercial-free pods of all GSPN pods, bonus content, exclusive GSPN After Dark pod. We did recently a bunch of weird NBA quizzes that I turned out. It was so funny, but it was also just weird. Like I went back to that quiz, the trivia whiz one, and was showing other people because I was like, this is insane. So if you want to have a fun time listening to that, going through that journey with us, subscribe and you get a weekly exclusive podcast. Trivia whiz, man. The Sporkle ones were good. But yeah, make sure you subscribe wherever you're listening to or watching this podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and review on your podcast platform of choice. Pod random, and we'll talk to you next time.